Godzilla X Kong Supernova could break the entire Monsterverse wide open, and ever since the movie's title was announced, theories have been flying about what's next for the two Alpha Titans. Set to release on March 26, 27, production is already underway on the third movie to feature both Godzilla and Kong as the two key defenders against the planet's monstrous villains. While they remain bitter rivals, both Titans have thus far been able to put aside their differences when a greater threat to the world presents itself, which should be the case again in the latest Monsterverse entry. Godzilla X Kong Supernova will be directed by Grant Spittori in what will be the Australian filmmaker's most significantly budgeted movie by far. While virtually no information is available yet about the movie's plot, a litany of cast confirmations have rolled in over the last few months, including Caitlin Dever, Jack O'Connell, and Sam Neill. With a mostly new cast, it's difficult to make any real guesses about what will unfold in Godzilla x Kong Supernova, but we have a few theories based on some key context clues. Godzilla versus Kang and Godzilla x Kong. The new empire may have featured Godzilla and Kong in starring roles, but make no mistake, they were Kong movies. GVK saw the introduction of the Hollow Earth and Kong's place in its history, while the new empire delved deeper into the history of Kong's species and featured another great ape as the big bad. Godzilla fans have been disappointed by both the lack of focus on Godzilla's narrative since Godzilla, King of the Monsters, and his sheer lack of screen time. Godzilla x Kong Supernova should rectify this, and in grand fashion. We've only gotten snippets of Godzilla's history so far in the Monsterverse, and always in the context of his enemies. We know he battled Ghidorah in the past, was responsible for burying Scar King and his minions, and that his species may have had an ancient rivalry with Kong's ancestors. We're due for some more intimate details about Big G's long life and origins. What's the key to his long life? What happened to the rest of his species? Why does he have a symbiotic relationship with Mothra? Supernova could dig into Godzilla like the previous movies did with Kong. When the movie's title was announced, hardcore Godzilla fans took off running with the theory that Godzilla x Kong Supernova was a reference to Space Godzilla. Godzilla's ultra-powerful doppelganger was born when some Godzilla cells made their way into a black hole and fused with crystalline organisms. Widely considered one of, if not the strongest foes that Godzilla's ever faced, Space Godzilla would represent a proper escalation of the threat to the world, and would certainly require Godzilla to get some support from Kong. Since the title announcement, some of the actors and others associated with Supernova have included space-related emojis in Instagram posts related to their roles in the movie, further fueling speculation. An alternative theory posits that the movie's title card points to Gigan instead of Space Godzilla, who is a cyborg from the deep reaches of space, who would also loosely fit the perceived clues we've been given. With no plot details available, Space Godzilla, or another cosmic villain, certainly seems like the most likely angle. It's common knowledge that Toho charges to license monsters from their extensive filmography, and it occurs on a monster-by-monster basis. In fact, Legendary had an original Titan named Phosphera ready to roll as the peacemaker in Godzilla x Kong, The New Empire, if they were unable to secure the rights to Mothra again. After the staggering box office success of that movie, which featured two original Titans, Legendary may not want to pay to get a monster like Space Godzilla or Gigan, and instead go with another new monster. On top of that, Toho may not want to hand one over. In just a couple of months, for the first time ever, both Toho and an American company will be in production on Godzilla movies at the same time. The sequel to the Academy Award-winning Godzilla -1 will be in the works at the same time as Godzilla x Kong Supernova, and Toho could be unwilling to take any options off their own plate with their own highly successful burgeoning Godzilla timeline in the works. Whether it's a cosmic villain from Godzilla's past or an original Titan from Legendary, the Monsterverse is in dire need of some stakes after the almost cartoonish action of the New Empire. There is no better way to raise the stakes than by proving the lethality of the new villain, and the easiest method of doing so would be to have it kill a major Titan. The prevailing theory is that Shimo will be an early casualty, as the most powerful Titan on Earth. Shima would be too significant a weapon ally, so she could meet her end quickly. One of the key plot points in Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, in which Space Godzilla made his first movie appearance, was Space Godzilla's abduction and imprisonment of Godzilla's offspring, known as Godzilla Jr., or Little Godzilla. Whether Space Godzilla appears or not, Supernova could introduce Godzilla's son, just as the new Empire introduced Zuko for Kong. The Monsterverse cinematic universe isn't showing any signs of ending soon, so Legendary would be wise to set up another generation to take the mantle from Godzilla and Kong. This would also, by default, make it a Godzilla-centric movie, making it a little bit more likely. Leaked set photos from the production of Supernova revealed Matthew Modine's character in some sort of uniform that featured a logo that looked an awful lot like the logo for G-Force, the Japanese-based military arm of the United Nations Godzilla Countermeasures Center. Where Monarch works to help the planet's titans defend humanity, G-Force could be set up as a rival agency that is at odds with Monarch due to their initiative to defend against all titans, including Godzilla and Kong. It would explain the ever-expanding roster of human stars and could help enhance the typically lacking human stories from the Monsterverse. Whether it's Monarch or G-Force, a dire enough threat could force humanity to insert themselves into the Titan battles firsthand once again after the disaster of Mechagodzilla. Once again borrowing from the plot of Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, the Mecha Moguera played a key role in helping Godzilla defeat his cosmic clone. Robotic kaiju have always played a huge role in Godzilla's history, and whether it's Moguera or another robot like Jet Jaguar, the Monsterverse feels due for another mecha. Dan Stevens' returning character Trapper, who was behind Kong's BEAST glove, could act as a pilot for the mecha. Admittedly, it may be too early in the Monsterverse's life to attempt something like this. However, if the villain is powerful enough in Godzilla x Kong, Supernova, Godzilla could be forced to use his privilege and ability as the Earth's Alpha Titan to call all the Protector Titans into battle. The concept would be a callback to one of the most beloved movies of the Showa era, 1968's Destroy All Monsters, which featured Godzilla at the head of a group of monsters all teaming up to take down King Ghidorah.